You're watching The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ Envy, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the God. We are The Breakfast Club. We have a special guest in the building, Cecile Richards.
Cecile.
But
that's
Richards.
close.
Cecile.
That's okay.
Cecile.
He didn't even ask. He
Cecile.
thought you
That's
could land that
okay.
one.
I thought I was going to land
Believe me, you're not the first person to say it wrong. It's okay.
Well, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning.
Cecile Richards, you were president of Planned Parenthood for 12 years.
That's right.
Recently stepped down, and now you have this book out, Make Trouble.
Right.
And you talk a lot about how you were an activist even as a very young child.
Yes.
And how you started off so early. So let's talk about that a little bit, because I know a lot of it is documented in the book, but I just want to get to where we are today.
Sure. Well, thanks. And thanks for having me. I'm from Texas. And I grew up in Dallas. And the truth is, when I was growing up, my folks were really involved in the civil rights movement and the farm workers movement, and they were kind of against everything that was happening in Dallas, Texas. And so I think most families were just doing regular type things, and my folks were involved in politics. And so ever since then, they brought me up to believe that we were put on this earth to make a difference. And if we were lucky enough, we would maybe find our path, find a thing that we could do that could maybe help make the world better, make people's lives better. And so that's how I started out. I was really, really lucky to have the parents that I did.
And your mom in particular, Ann Richards,
Yes.
was the governor of Houston.
Governor of Texas.
I mean,
Yeah.
Texas.
No,
sorry,
that's okay.
Texas.
No, that's, yeah, we, well, I mean, that was kind of back in the day when women didn't really run for office that much. So she was really kind of on the forefront, particularly in Texas. And she became county commissioner. Then she was state treasurer, and then she had the audacity to run against two guys who wanted to be governor, and she was elected the first woman governor that was ever elected in her own right in the state. I know. It's kind of crazy.
That's amazing.
Why not politics for you then?
Well, I feel like I've always kind of done politics, but more on the outside as an organizer, and I've been really, really lucky to work for candidates that I felt like were important and could really change the dialogue. So... I mean, never say never, but
Planned Parenthood is apolitical. It really is very much involved in politics, though.
Yeah, but your mom was telling guys what to do, but as the leader of Planned Parenthood, guys were telling you what to do with your body. What women to do with their body.
Right. No, I mean, and I think that's the thing. The work at Planned Parenthood, I hope, was really following a little bit of what my mom did. She really believed in women and that we should trust women to make their own decisions about their health care, about their bodies. And you're right, Angela, this is now... It shouldn't be political to me. This should be every person's right to make their own decisions. But particularly in this administration and this environment, I think there are a lot of folks that are in elective office that are trying to take away the rights of a lot of people, but including women, to make their own healthcare decisions.
Some of the craziest things that I've ever seen is outside of Planned Parenthood. When people are coming in there to see a doctor,
Right.
and people are protesting, and I'm like, that has to be one of the worst things ever.
Yeah.
I never understood how you could allow, I know you could protest anywhere, but how you can allow people to protest against that when people are going to their doctor's office, you know?
Right. No, I agree. And I mean, even here in New York, it's amazing to me, you know, folks stand outside of health centers and yell at women and just make all kinds of assumptions about even why they're coming into Planned Parenthood.
Because you might not even, people assume Planned Parenthood means you're getting an abortion, but you could be going to get anything done.
In fact,
It's
right.
crazy.
I mean, yes, because we provide health care not only to women, a lot of men, a lot of the LGBTQ community comes to Planned Parenthood because they can get really non-stigmatized, non-judgmental health care. And to me, it is outrageous that folks would stand outside and harass women because women can make up their own mind, just like everybody can. And women know what's best for them. And I always say, like, I'd love to go to some of these folks who are standing out there with these picket signs and protest signs and say, look, if you really want to do something to reduce unintended pregnancy and even, you know, the number of abortions in this country, you should be volunteering at Planned Parenthood instead. Just put down your sign and come on in and help.
Get some birth control.
Yeah, because folks need access to
That's real.
affordable health care. And not just women, men. I mean, one of the fastest growing populations coming to Planned Parenthood for patient care are men, because the lack of affordable health care in this country is outrageous. And that is a political issue, you know, especially now. We made a lot of progress under President Obama.
Seems like it's going back now with Donald Trump.
That's
Well,
what
Donald Trump is definitely trying to unravel a lot of what
everything.
Right.
president,
Everything the president
former
did
president Barack
former
Obama
president.
did.
Well, maybe always our president,
Yeah,
but
always.
not in office now. But no, all of the progress that we made to get affordable health care to folks, this has been number one target by this administration, this Congress. They tried to defund Planned Parenthood. They tried to repeal Obamacare. But because so many folks in this country really spoke up and said, look, I need access to affordable health care. I don't even care what party you're in. Everybody needs access to affordable health care. But it's a big fight.
I never understood why they don't want women to have sexual and reproductive freedom. Like, why? Why do you care? Like,
What's the issue? I never understood it either.
I mean, I don't know either. And again, that's what we really fight for at Planned Parenthood. But I do think it's about control. Because look, this is what's really interesting. So Planned Parenthood's been around 101 years now. Okay, before we were founded, women didn't have access to anything, not even the right to vote, right? So you think about now, more than a century later, women are now half the workforce in this country, half the college students, now medical school, law school, you name it. And I think for some people that's really upsetting. And because essentially I think having access to your health care and your reproductive rights is what makes you equal and what makes you free. But I think it's also important to recognize that even though we've made a lot of progress, it has been hugely unequal in this country. So if you need access to affordable reproductive health care, Planned Parenthood may be the only place you can go. But when this administration tries to take that away, they're really hurting women with low incomes, women of color, women who live in like the part of the world I'm from, the southern United States, where it's just there isn't an equal system of health care access.
You know what I meant to ask? When you have an abortion, is it different states have different regulations and rules? Meaning, but I never
100%.
that. So,
Yeah.
you know, in
100%.
New York, let's say it's 2 months, and then someplace else is 4 months. Why?
Alabama.
Is that? Yeah. Why is that?
No, exactly. I mean,
How do you know that? But go ahead. Well,
No, because it was a big. I mean, there's a big story
I
now.
read.
okay.
Gosh. How
Pay
do I know that?
Good answer. Good answer.
No, to me, this is what's really distressing is depending on the politics of your governor and your state legislature, you have more or less access to reproductive health care and not just abortion access. So in my home state of Texas, it's not only that you have huge restrictions on being able to access safe and legal abortion, they've kicked Planned Parenthood out of the HIV program. They've kicked Planned Parenthood out of the breast cancer screening program. I mean, birth control. So it's much bigger. And to me, your access to reproductive rights and care shouldn't depend on your zip code.
Right.
But if you live in certain parts of the country, like we're just about to open, I'm glad you had Andrew Gilliam in here, who's running for governor down in Florida, where also healthcare is unequal. But we're just about to open finally a big health center in Tallahassee. The Panhandle of Florida, it's hard to get access to healthcare. There just aren't folks providing.
That's what you were saying.
So even though you stepped down as president, you're still.
I'm pretty passionate
yeah,
about this.
you're still very
You would have
involved.
to be for 12 years.
Well, it is, and look, one of the things I'm proudest of is under President Obama. We had our fights. It wasn't like everything was just
Hunky dory, right?
yeah. And one of the biggest fights was getting birth control.
I got kids.
Excuse me. He's been using words like this all day. He said
I mean, I
flim
know.
flam. I'm like,
I didn't know what that
But that's
was.
okay.
day.
I got kids. Hunky dory.
Hunky dory. Anyway, I kind of knew what he meant.
Yeah, I did too.
Just let him slide on that one. But no, I mean, under President Obama, we had a big fight just to get birth control. And now, because of Obamacare, we have now birth control coverage for everybody that's insured at no cost, which is amazing. And this means, I think the first year women saved like $1.4 billion on birth control pills. That's huge. And now we're actually at the lowest rate of teen pregnancy in the history of
That
the
is a big
country.
deal. I remember being in college
Yeah.
and wanting to get on the pill and being like, oh, but it costs so much money.
Right, I know. And these guys in Congress say, well, it's not an economic issue. And I said, well, it is if you've never had to pay for it.
Right.
But any woman who's had to pay for birth control knows. And that's crazy. Why? We should be dropping it out of airplanes. It should be free. It should be on every street corner.
No, like what you said in chapter 1, you said, I firmly believe that when half of Congress can get pregnant, we will finally stop arguing about birth control, abortion, and Planned Parenthood.
Because you're talking to a
Isn't it
room
the truth?
full of white men.
100%.
Well, you would love this. When we were trying to get birth control covered, Congress was like, okay, we need to bring experts in to like tell us whether it's a good idea. So they put
All
together
men.
a panel of experts. Exactly. It's like the only thing they had in common is they'd never used birth control. So that's what we're dealing with. And so Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan, Donald Trump, you can see Mike Pence, there's a pattern here.
Maybe you should change the rhetoric. Like maybe you should say, "What if you got your mistresses pregnant?"
Yeah, Donald Trump. What if one of the
How
women
would
that
you-
you cheated with got
Yeah.
pregnant?
Yeah,
Then
I
what?
think you should ask him that. I think you should get him on the show.
Because then
Wouldn't that be good?
That's what I'm saying. You would want abortion then if you got your mistress pregnant, probably.
We read about that happens all the time with
Exactly.
members of
Every
Congress.
day. Now,
Yeah.
let me ask you this. There's a lot of fake news around Planned Parenthood.
Yeah, always.
Right. So, and you talk about it in the book, too, about you guys were selling fetal tissue, and that was something that you actually had to speak on, even though they had misinformation.
Right. It was.
Now-
I think it's important to just to point out that, in fact, the folks who had perpetrated that fake news were indicted in the state of California on 15 counts. So, but still, yes, we had to address it. We had to deal with it because that's not something that we do.
Now, I want to ask you this because I just recently saw this, and I don't know how real this is, right?
Okay.
It says here, Martin Luther King's niece to Starbucks. If you oppose racism, stop funding Planned Parenthood. I don't.
Well,
Now, they talk about how they say Margaret Sanger, who founded Planned Parenthood, was racist, and it's a whole conspiracy to have Planned Parenthood in neighborhoods where urban
Minorities
communities
are, yeah.
where people of color live, and that it's a way of killing us off.
yeah, so that's not true. There are definitely parts of the Planned Parenthood history, and I think we have unpacked that a lot. I mean, there were things that Margaret Sanger believed 100 years ago that are absolutely unacceptable today. But this is definitely part of I would say, the rights narrative. The truth is, everyone comes to Planned Parenthood. 1 in 5 women in this country, and from every possible background. And our health centers are everywhere. In fact, half of our health centers are in medically underserved communities. I'll give you an example. I was just in Paul Ryan's district. We have 3 health centers in Paul Ryan's district that serve mainly rural women in small town communities. Those are the kind of health centers that would be put out of business if they actually defunded Planned Parenthood. And so I guess I feel like it's important that everyone have access to affordable health care, regardless of your race or your gender or sexual orientation. And that's really what Planned Parenthood's been about. We are and I feel really strongly about that. And some of the strongest leaders at Planned Parenthood are women of color who are really just amazing, asserting their rights.
Has it been for a lot of politicians? I'm sure they're helpful to you behind the scenes, but are there people that have been scared to stand by you and support you?
It used to be, that was right when I first came in, but I'll never forget, actually, just talk about our president again, President Obama. I'll never forget the second debate when we were in the middle of, I don't know if you remember, but that was a really tough election. He was running against Mitt Romney, and I remember on the national debate, there were like 70 million viewers, and he basically said to Mitt Romney, here's the difference between us. You want to defund Planned Parenthood, and I believe they provide critical life-saving care to women all across this country. And he said it many, many times. And that was, to me, the sign that he recognized not just that he personally believed in us, but that millions of people do. And in fact, it's funny, Fox News just had a poll. I'm sure they didn't want to release this information, but they had to, that said that Planned Parenthood was the most popular organization in the country.
Wow.
Which is kind of crazy when you think about it. But I think it is because so many folks depend on us for health care, and not just women. Not just women.
I remember sometimes protesting would be so bad at Planned Parenthood that they would have to shut some places down.
It's still bad.
And
It's still
actually
bad. One in
move
Jersey,
them.
when I go to get my haircut in Jersey.
Oh, it's terrible.
You see that? They out there.
every day.
Yes,
You
they
know
out
how
there crazy.
devastating and traumatic that must be if you're going in there,
Right.
even if you are, like, say you are going to have an abortion, and you have
Yeah.
to walk past all of. You're already making a huge decision that
That's
I'm
right.
sure mentally is not an easy one to make, and then to have to walk past people that don't know you,
that
don't
know
know your
nothing
situation.
about your life. That's right. I mean, I think that's the outrage, is that as if somehow politicians or strangers on the street know better for you than you know for yourself. And one of the important things about Planned Parenthood to me is we're there also to counsel women.
Right.
Because some women don't know what they want to do. And we not only provide all methods of birth control that are affordable, but also making sure that there's somebody that they can talk to. Because some young women, some middle-aged women, they don't have anybody in their life that they can really talk to about their healthcare decisions. But it should be women's decisions. And that's what I say. Someone asked me the other day, what would you want to say to President Trump, if you saw him? And I would just be, trust women. Trust women to make their own medical decisions. That's what, if you do that, you'll make the right decision.
How safe is birth control, the pills? Is it
Very
safe?
safe. Very safe.
Some people say it affects the body differently. It'll stop you in the long run for having kids.
It won't do that, but I do think that's why it's really important that, like the birth control pill, that's one. It's not always the best method, and so one of the reasons that Planned Parenthood is important is we can tell you every kind of method, and then you might say, actually, I'd rather something other than the pill. In fact, one of the things we just did, I know I say we, and I know I'm gone, but I've only been gone a month, so it's still like, but we did this clinical trial for a self-injectable birth control. It's Depo-Provera, but you basically can take it home, and it's good for 3 months. Now that, for some women, is like, It's really effective, super easy to do. So to me, we have to keep finding methods, because someone will say, I can remember to take a pill every day, and then other women say that is just not gonna that's not gonna work.
I remember being on a pill and forgetting, then you have to double up the next day, and
right,
then
it's hard.
You forget 2 days, and then you're like, forget it, I didn't bring it with me on this trip, and now I have to start all over.
Right.
So it's not an easy
but
thing.
yes, definitely making sure every woman, every patient knows the medical, complications, if there are any, is important.
Right.
Yeah.
Would you be the stand-up, outspoken leader you are without your mom?
And your father.
Yeah, my dad, probably not. I mean, who knows? We never know. But I do think it's important to acknowledge the folks who brought us along this way. And I mean, not just my parents. They were really important to me. My dad's a civil rights lawyer. I'm actually going down for his 85th birthday next weekend in Texas.
Wow.
So he's still doing this work. But I'll tell you who really influenced me was when I got out of college, I worked with women in New Orleans who were hotel workers, and then women in East Texas who were nursing home workers. I write about them in the book. And these are women who they had nothing in terms of, they were making minimum wage. Many of them were supporting their kids. And yet they were willing to risk organizing to try to get something better for themselves. And so people say to me sometimes like, well, I don't know if I can do anymore. It's like, well, when I met Leatrice Dews in East Texas, and you could easily say she couldn't do anymore, but she did more. And I think it is really important right now that in this time we're living in, when so much is happening that is so distressing, that we all think about what more that we can do.
What is the bigger picture? It was interesting when I was reading to you about you trying to help them form unions.
Yep.
I was thinking about the NFL at the same time, and how there were these men and women who were working, like you said, minimum wage or less than minimum wage jobs that really needed their salaries and having all kinds of issues, and they were willing to risk everything and put it on the line.
That's right. That's right.
In the NFL, not that many of the athletes are willing to do that.
Yeah. Well, some really courageous ones have.
Yeah, some have.
And you know what? They'll go down in history as being some of the most courageous people in this time.
Salute to Kaepernick, Eric Reed.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, that is, to me, that's what folks are looking for now, is the leadership in this country isn't coming from Washington.
No.
It's coming from folks around the country who are standing up and saying, this isn't right, whether it's about dreamers, whether it's about criminal justice system, whether it's violence against Black Americans, whether it's women's rights, LGBTQ rights. There's something to do for everybody. Although I think it's important, too, that we continue to lift up these stories, the courageous things that people are doing, because folks are getting discouraged. It's really tough to read the paper every day. So to me, the most important thing we can do right now is make sure that every single person we know goes and votes in November. Which is why I'm glad you have so many folks running for office, because people are making history.
Yeah, no, it's
people are making history.
Abrams.
Stacey Abrams, that was incredible. A young Planned Parenthood staffer, Nikema Williams, just became state senator in Atlanta as well.
Wow.
Folks are doing things that are truly heroic and historic.
And people are running for office that might not have ever considered it before.
That's what I'm seeing
That's because
everywhere.
we really need it.
Yes. No, Colin Allred ran for Congress. He's now the congressional nominee in Dallas. There are people everywhere. And, I mean, historic numbers of women, but historic numbers of people of color in many places. And this is an exciting time. It's a scary time, but it's an exciting time, too.
Even for yourself, I know you certainly have gotten your fair share of threats against your life, and people. Have you had to have security while you were working as president of Planned Parenthood?
How are people
whenever
against
you
abortion
traveled?
but want to kill you? That doesn't even make no sense.
Well, I mean, that's just the beginning. I mean, there's a lot of things that don't make sense. Or let's be honest, what about let's take care of all the kids that are here? I mean, we're the same folks who are trying to put down or close Planned Parenthood are trying to end children's health insurance programs or school lunch programs or how about
After-school
taking care
programs
of,
or-
look at one of the most critical medical issues we have right now is maternal mortality, women dying, including African American women here in New York City. So let's focus on all these women who are
Childhood
actually trying
obesity.
to have, right. There is a lot of issues. So, I mean, to answer your question, we do have security at Planned Parenthood because we really are focused on making sure that the folks who come into our clinics and our providers are safe.
But for yourself personally, traveling around, has that been an issue?
Sometimes, some places. But I just had to make a decision, I think we all do, which is you just can't live in fear.
Can't live scared.
You just can't live scared. That's right. And look, there's a lot of folks who don't even put themselves in, dangerous positions, perhaps, that are in danger. And that's the other thing I think is just outrageous. Is just think about people who are just trying to live their lives, but who are become victims of the criminal justice system. And I really think we have to all own how much we need to be standing with communities who are unbelievably under assault.
What made you write the book? I mean, with everything going on and everything that you're talking about,
So after
what made you just say, I want to do this?
Well, so after the election, and I had the honor of working with the President Obama's administration on so many things. I think after the last election, folks just woke up and were immediately like,
Did you work with Hillary?
I
as well?
did. I traveled. I volunteered. I did all that.
You did too.
She called you personally, right?
She did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
she did. Actually, she called me after my congressional testimony because she said, you did a great job. She says, I'm going up in front of those same guys in just a few weeks. But yeah, in fact, my daughter too worked for her. She now works for Kamala Harris, who I think you've had on this show.
Love her. Hope she runs 2020.
Love her. Anyway, people just kept asking me on the street. They'd stop me and say, okay, what are we supposed to do? Because I think everyone was just in shock. And I thought, well, instead of talking to everybody on the subway, I'm just going to write a book instead because it'll be easier. Right. And so it's a little bit of a memoir, but also like I think how people can make a difference right now because that's what people want to do. I mean, that's the good news is as bad as things are, I've never seen the outpouring of grassroots activism,
Yes.
folks running for office,
Yes.
people standing up with each other.
I think we forgot democracy is about the people, and I love Barack Obama, but I think he put a lot of us to sleep. And we thought now that we have this brother in the White House, things are just
gonna
going
be
to
okay.
magically be okay. He's going to take care of every issue that got to do with minorities. That's not the way none of this works. And I think if Hillary would have got in, which I would have loved, it would have been more of the same. So I think now we know we got to do the work, and when we get somebody else in there that's for our interests, it all will come together and make the whole world better.
No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, democracy is about the participation of people. And, I look at my home state of Texas, which has become just sort of unrecognizable politically, just, I don't know, very upsetting. But in the last presidential election, only 43% of the people went and voted.
Yikes.
43% of registered voters. So then you have a state that's not even a red state, it's just a not voting state. And so I do think I'm really glad to see young people focusing on voter registration, focusing on voting, because we have to make it, once it becomes a habit, people then do it for the rest of their lives.
Right.
And I love the title, Make Trouble. I just don't understand why in America fighting for the right thing is considered trouble.
Well, as my idol and friend, Congressman John Lewis says, it's important to get in trouble, but to get in good trouble.
Yes.
And it's true. We've never, whatever rights you want to talk about, we never gotten anything without really fighting for it. And so I think that's what it's about and we shouldn't be having to just make trouble to preserve what we've got. We should be actually moving forward. And I hope you're right. I think folks are awake now in a way that they haven't been, but this is a long haul. A lot of people are in pain. A lot of people are suffering right now, and I think it's important for all of us to do more than we thought we were gonna.
It must have been a difficult decision for you to step away.
It was, but I also believe, I'm very excited about this next generation of leaders, and at Planned Parenthood, we did a lot to invest in them. Young people who they're ready to take on a lot of these responsibilities. So I thought it was important I'll be a lifelong fighter for these issues, but I think it's important too sometimes to step aside and make room for somebody new.
Right.
So I'm not giving up. I'm just trying to make more room for others.
Gotcha.
All
Well, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And
Appreciate it.
Cecile Richards will be at my book club on Wednesday, so I'm
Looking
very
forward-
excited for that. She will be answering all your questions. It's going to be a really great one. Make Trouble. Make sure you get that book. Make sure you come to the book club at Woodstack Ivy. We will be there in attendance.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks a bunch.
Cecile Richards. Did I say it right?
No.
No, man. Cecile is that
Cecile.
crackhead you used to know in
Cecile.
Queens.
Okay, right.
Cecile. Cecile, you gonna wash my car? What's wrong with you?
Cecile Richards, thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay.
I'm never
so
going to get it
crazy.
right.